Did you know there was a civilization that lived in the Indus River Valley from 2800 BCE to 1800 BCE, which is located in today's Pakistan, India and Afghanistan? The civilization settled on a land area that was larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined and is seen as one of the early civilizations. They are thought to have developed city planning, architecture, limestones and even primitive canalization. However, we know far less about the Indus than ancient Egypt.
Many people know about the pyramids or hieroglyphics of ancient Egypt, but few know what allowed it to prosper. The Nile's predictable water flows, the natural defense of the Sahara, the access to the sea and the fertile soils of the Nile Valley are some of the reasons why Egypt would stand out from other civilizations during the same period. Their proximity to the Nile allowed them to produce stable agricultural output through irrigation of wheat fields. The Egyptians developed their own writing system, which enabled administration and management of this agricultural output. Since there was enough food, the population could grow to a relatively high number. We know more about ancient Egypt than Mesopotamia or the Indus River civilization, but it is still disputed how the pyramids were built.
Have you already heard about the ancient civilization of Mesopotamia? It was located in modern-day Iraq and parts of Syria, Iran and Turkey. The name is Greek and translates to between rivers, since it was located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. It existed from 3100 BC and ended in 539 BC with the fall of Babylon, after which the area was reigned by foreign rulers. In a similar fashion like Egypt and the Indus River civilization, Mesopotamia had a steady access to water through the two rivers and used irrigation to grow crops in the surrounding area. This gave them sufficient food supply, which resulted in the development of more specialized occupations and thereby culture.
Most people know about China's rapid rise from an isolated agrarian state into an industrial superpower, but not many know about the history of China. Chinese history dates back 3,000 years, while 2,000 years were seen as the imperial era. This era included many different dynasties, most notably the Han dynasty from 206 BC until 220 AD. This era was seen as a golden age and the Han Chinese are the dominant group in modern China. China was very isolated from Europe, but there were trade routes like the Silk Road. They were also the first to use gunpowder. However, Chinese history underwent the so-called dynastic cycle, which meant that dynasties rose and fell. At the same time, China was in conflict with its neighbors and conquered surrounding regions, while being conquered itself multiple times. It is thought that the first humans settled on the Japanese islands in 10,000 BC. The first documented contacts with China occurred around 300 BC to 300 AD. Then Japan experienced immigration from neighboring Korea. During the Heian period from 794 to 1185, warrior families gained power and weakened the central power of the emperor. Later during the Kamakura period, Kublai Khan tried to invade Japan 2 times, but both times his ships were destroyed by a giant storm. The Japanese see this as the kamikaze. From the 1630s to 1854, Japan isolated itself actively and did not allow any migration or immigration. This period ended when the USA forced Japan to open itself for trade. This ended the Japanese warrior culture and returned power from the warrior families to the emperor. Many people know that the British Empire was the largest empire in history, but fewer know that the second largest was the Mongol Empire. It ruled over 16% of Earth's surface and was established by Genghis Khan. He united the Mongol tribes and expanded his zone of influence with military force. China, Persia and even parts of Eastern Europe became part of the Mongol Empire during the 13th century. His army was mainly comprised of cavalry, which was extremely fast and agile. This enabled them to conquer lands from Asia to Europe in a time when there was barely any contact between the continents. He is said to have had hundreds of children and approximately 16 million living humans are his descendants. Iran was home to one of the earliest civilizations, being home to agricultural communities in 10,000 BC. In this early civilization, Iran was not a nation and consisted of many different tribes, most notably the Medes and the Persians. However, they were under control of Assyria. It took until 550 BC that the Medes and Persians were unified under the First Persian Empire. This empire expanded to include Anatolia, Egypt, Mesopotamia and even parts of Greece at its greatest extent. During the time, major improvements to transport infrastructure was done and Persepolis was built. It is also seen as the world's first superpower that was based on a model of tolerance and respect for other cultures and religions. It was also during this time that they launched 2 invasions on Greece, which would later be known as the Greco-Persian Wars. However, they were defeated in both cases, which was the begin of the decline of the First Persian Empire. In the 4th century BC, Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire.